Welcome to MLS Roundup from We Are Soccer. I'm your host, Craig Hearn, and as usual, I'm joined by our MLS expert and soccer syndicate scout, Brooks Lambier. Today, we'll be chatting about the upcoming MLS Cup Final between Portland and NYCFC and how those two teams got to the final. All right, Brooks, how you doing, man? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. A lot of soccer. Obviously, the interesting conference finals this past weekend, and a whole bunch of stuff. College Cup coming up this weekend. The Elite Eight was just what just happened, so a whole bunch of stuff going on, and then obviously MLS Next just finished up on December 7th. So a whole lot of soccer, and then this Christmas break happens. We're on a little break, and then before you know it, the MLS draft and players sign everywhere. Then in February, the MLS season starts again. So man.
There's no break, really, man. Everybody always asks me, like, how do you plan on running a soccer show? Isn't there an off season? Nope, there's no off season in soccer ever. I mean, you look and there's soccer being played every single day somewhere around the world. And here in the USA, there's soccer being played, man. And there's an off season where players are changing, or there's the combine or the showcase now, as we talked about it, and other combines happening, and the draft, and it never stops. Never
Nope.
stops. All right. Well, our focus today is on the MLS final here. We've got Portland at home to NYCFC. All right. So before we kind of jump in, I want to give some stats, right? So Portland finished the season with 17 wins, 13 losses, 4 draws, and a plus 20 goal difference. And they had 51 points in the Western Conference. NYCFC had 14 wins, 11 losses, 9 draws, and were a plus 4 goal difference with 55 points in the East. I've heard a lot of people, I've done a lot of reading. Everybody says, well, Portland are the favorites. They're the favorites. They got to be the favorites. I mean, yeah, they had a way bigger goal difference. They had less points. I don't know, man. I think this is going to be a closer game than what most people are thinking. What are your thoughts on these two teams and where they finished up in the season and how this game's going to go?
It'll be interesting. So a big stat that when I was watching that RSL game that they kind of kept referring to was statistically and with analytics that Portland had the highest expected goal amount out of any MLS team this 2021 season, and they give a lot of shots, and there were times in the season where they got run 6-2 by Seattle, at home, during the season, and they had some times when their back line wasn't great. They were going to give up shots, and Portland's a team that's not going to be sexy and keep the ball a lot. They're a transition team. They want to press you, and they want to get you to turn the ball over on the midfield, and they want to get you going the other way. They're not afraid to sit back and defend and let you have the ball. And they're not a very high percentage possession team. They're not looking to have 60, 70, 80% of the ball the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that said, though, when they do have the ball and they get into the final third and they get into the transition game and they can keep the ball in the opponent's final third, they have outside backs that can get up in behind and whip in crosses, and they have guys, that's Claudio Bravo and from the left side that can do that, and then Van Ronken from the right side. And then you have a guy like Sebastian Blanco that they were probably thankful that he didn't have to play last game. They could give him some rest and some extra days so he can get ready for the MLS Cup. And you have a guy like Blanco that can play wide. He can play inside. He can tuck inside as a winger. He can play as a 10. And that's where he's been very successful, is playing as this 10 for Portland and being very creative. And then guys like Diego Chara and Christian Paredes, and unfortunately Eric Williamson went down with an injury halfway through the season, and he was a key component, but Paredes has done a good job filling in. And guys like Felipe Mora found the goal a lot, and then he kind of went through a drought. And then you had guys like Nias Goda kind of pick it up, and Dairon Asprilla, found, him being an actual starter this year for Portland. He was always a bench player. He was Mr. October, Mr. November. He always had the huge goals for Portland in the come playoff time. And Dairon's shown that he can be a very, good everyday player for them. And Mabiala and Zuprich have always been they've had their fair share of kind of bad times, and then they've had, some really good streaks. And Steve Clark has had his moments where he's been brilliant, and he's had his moments where it's been, it's not like one through the legs, but maybe
Yeah.
it's, there's some little mental mistakes he may make. So, this team's been up and down, but I will say they have a very good culture. That's what Gio Savarese really kind of added to and changed a bit within the club and the
Mhm.
team. It's given it a culture and a reason. And I mean, if you look at Gio Savarese, I mean, ever he's coached, he's always made it and always done well in, in some type of playoff, format. He may not have won every year with the Cosmos when they were NASL, but he always got to the semifinals or won. He's gotten to the semifinals of US Open Cup with Portland. He's won MLS's back. He's gotten to, I mean, his first or second year with Portland, he got to the MLS Cup Final to play Atlanta in got to the semifinals and lost. And that Atlanta team in that second year with Tata Martino was just a superb all-star team. I mean, there was no way Portland was going to win that match, unfortunately. And he's just been very consistent in when it comes to playoff time and when you need to get results and win. And, that's why, to me, I think Portland has a big advantage with playing at home in front of their home
Right.
fans, in front of the Timbers Army,
Right.
makes it all that more difficult for NYCFC. Not to discredit and say that NYCFC has not had a good season and they've not, shown that they are capable of putting goals putting balls in the back of the net, and giving Portland a challenge. Now having Castellano back, and getting goals from different people, and Maxim Morales finding his form, and Sean Johnson doing well. But I think it's just going to be a very big challenge for NYCFC coming in, and Portland's the favorite. But I think Portland needs to be very careful as well because NYCFC has shown that they can come out of nowhere and take teams by surprise.
Absolutely. They've done that several times this year where they've come out and just blanked teams and man,
Mhm.
some of the speed they've got on the wings to get down and score some goals. But
Mhm.
one of the items you mentioned there that I wanted to chat about was the Timbers Army. It's I have never been there. It's on my list of stadiums to get to. I want to experience it. I've got some friends who've gone and they say
Mhm.
it's absolutely crazy.
Yep.
It's an awesome atmosphere and it is loud and it is raucous and it is tough for teams to go in there and play, and it
Yes.
does make a difference. It makes a big difference when you're playing there. It can be a little bit intimidating, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I've been
Um,
there. I've been there in preseason games where it's 3/4 full and it's still intimidating. I mean, you have the whole Timbers Army, but the stadium's 3/4 full, but you can still hear them going on and off. And you got Timber Joy with the chainsaw roll around and cutting the logs when the slabs when they score and everything. It's a fun atmosphere, but it's tough. It's an
yeah,
atmosphere that holds all the noise in very well, and it's not an easy place to play. So
right.
NYCFC's got that going up against them.
They got that's part of the challenge. That's part of where they finished, and now they got to go to Portland to win. NYCFC did just win against the Philadelphia Union. There's been a lot of arguments whether that game should have gone on. Obviously, the Union had a total of 11 players out with COVID, six of
Mhm.
them being starters, from what we understand. I mean, that's tough, but you can't push back games. It's I believe the rules have stated this year that if you've got enough players to play, you got to play
Yep.
the game because, as you and I were talking about before we started recording, flights have been booked, tickets have been sold, people are expected to show up, and it's just one of those things. With all that
Mhm.
being said, with all the players that the Union were missing, they still put up a hell of a match, man. They scored first and they held on and tried to hold on to the end, but unfortunately it just wasn't to be, and they ended
Yeah.
up losing 2-1 to NYCFC.
Mhm.
They put up a great effort though, man. I applaud the effort that that team, and what they had to go through.
Yeah, and I think it just shows you. I mean, the guys they started. I mean, Leon Flock. They get him from FC St. Paul, the young American that went over there, and we needed to revitalize his career a bit. And look what he did this whole year with the Union. I think he was a great addition for them. At times he had to come off the bench, but he started in a lot of matches. And guys like Jack McGlynn, who comes in, who was an academy player, and Nathaniel Harriel, and coming in and playing outside back. And surprisingly, Paxton Aronson didn't start. I was kind of shocked
Yeah.
about that one. I thought he would at least get the nod to start. And then you have the veterans like Montero and Shabilko and Joseph Martinez, and I think Aurelian Collin did pretty well for playing 1 minute in the past 2 years. That's what they kept kind of referencing. He hadn't played much the last 2 years, and then you had Freeze, the goalkeeper, who was a 2-year starter at Harvard, got the trial at Manchester United, and when he was a young academy player, and they did what they could, and unfortunately they fell short. But I mean, it's a good run, and hopefully they can kind of rebuild. And I know they're looking for a forward next year, so hopefully they can fill that spot and they can continue on with their success.
Absolutely, 100%. All right. Well, the game this weekend, Saturday, December 11th, 3 o'clock Eastern time on ABC, the main channel there. So big game. Hopefully, there's a big audience. I know I'll be watching. I know you'll be watching, Brooks, and
Yes.
we'll do what we normally do during these games. We'll swap texts and say, "Oh man, what a play!" or "Did you say that play?"
Yeah.
Big game coming up this week. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm a little bummed that the season is coming to an end. It's our final MLS game. It's
Mhm.
definitely not our final MLS roundup, though, because as you said to open this show, there's a lot to talk about. Teams, combines happening, players moving. There's going to be coaching acquisitions. There's going to be a lot of different things coming up. And then next week we can talk about some of the awards that were handed out again. Carlos
Mhm.
Gil just got named the MVP this week. We can chat
Yep.
about that. Lots more to talk about. And as you also mentioned, MLS kicks off in February, and before you know it, it's going to be February. And if anybody's wondering why the league kicks off so early this year or next year in 2022, is because the World Cup is being
Yes.
moved, and the World Cup is now being played in December in Qatar 2022. So a lot of the domestic leagues have changed their schedules around. Every league's going to be starting a little earlier next season.
Mhm.
All right, man. Lots to look forward to. Anything you want to chat? You want to add before we close up shop and for the day?
Uh, um, I'm trying to think of like just in the game. I mean, I think it's going to be a close one. I don't think it'll be. I don't think it's going to be a runaway by any means. Like it's not going to be Portland winning like 4-0 unless something crazy happens. I think NYCFC can get a goal, and just the question is, with Portland, it's tough. It's when you go down 1-0, they sit in, they don't mind to sit in and defend in the 4-4-2. But it's just they make it so difficult for teams to for other teams to break Portland's defense down. And that's what a good team does, is you make it difficult for people
Yep.
to play through you. And that's the thing, is NYCFC love to play through the opponent, and they aren't afraid of going behind at times. But it's going to be interesting to see how they handle Castellano and Morales, because those are the two big names that have really had a huge impact. And then, some of the bench players for NYCFC have had a big impact as well. But, if you're NYCFC, you're looking for Sean Johnson to have some big saves. And, he's capable of making those big saves, but he's also been capable of kind of letting in some soft goals from time to time. So, um, and as you saw with the RSL match, kind of the first goal that Portland got, off a poor clearance from Aaron Herrera that, Felipe Mora finds in back of the net. And then, unfortunately, Moreno just with the bomb from 25, 30 yards dings off the post and off the back of Ochoa.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get goals
Bad
like
luck.
that. But I'm interested to see if actually Moreno starts next game, because he was so impactful for Portland against RSL. I think you just have to find a spot for him, to be honest with you. He was so effective, and the way
Yep.
he defended, he went to go hunt the ball down, and he got away from players, and he can accelerate in the open space, and his vision, his passing to get players in behind. I mean, he brings something to the game, and I'm curious to see if Severiste starts him on Saturday. So that'll be one to watch, and it'll be interesting
Yep.
to see if he starts.
Absolutely. All right, man. Give me the prediction. Give me the prediction of who wins and what the final score is.
Yeah. I'm gonna go 3-1 Portland. I'll say Portland gets one late. It's maybe like 1-1 going to halftime. Portland gets one, and then NYCFC has to push, and then
Okay.
Portland on the counter they get one and make it 3-1.
I don't know what to tell you, but that was going to be my prediction. So now I'll change it. What? I do think Portland will take it. I think NYCFC will get a goal. I think they're going to make a real big push. I think they may even score first. But I think in the end, I think I'll change it up. I won't say 3-1 like you did. I'll go with 2-1.
Okay.
I'll go with 2-1 Portland. I do think they get it done. I think the Timbers Army, and in what Portland have gotten through this year, I think they'll take it. They got the experience, they got the home crowd. They'll take it 2-1 in my opinion. So it looks like both of us are picking Portland to win. And I think we've done this before. We did this as part of our bracket challenge where we both said, there's no way this team could win or lose, and we were both wrong. So maybe we should just congratulate NYCFC now.
Maybe.
Well, they got to play again. The game will be this Saturday, December 11th, 3:00 Eastern time on ABC. If you're watching, go ahead and jump on the We Are Soccer Facebook group. Chat with us. We'll be talking on there about it. It'll be a fun game. All right, Brooks. Again, thanks, man. Appreciate the time, and we'll look forward to talking next week, where we'll see who is the MLS champion of 2021.
It's going to be a good discussion next week. Looking forward to it.
All right, man. Cheers.
Cheers.